Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And in this video I'm going to be going over Star Wars The Clone Wars the movie. Now, Star Wars The Clone Wars the movie and Star Wars The Clone Wars the series. This was basically the only way that people could, if you're a Star Wars fan, this was basically the only way that you could wait until, because there was a 10-year gap between Revenge of the Sith and The Force Awakens, so this is the only thing that you can watch while you're waiting. Obviously Star Wars Rebels premiered in 2014, but this was kind of the show that you watched until you were waiting for the sequels, and then they announced The Force Awakens, and then it got sold to Disney. Now, sadly, this show was canceled in 2000. The show that followed this movie was canceled in 2013 when Disney bought Lucasfilm. They decided that they didn't want this show, but after a bit of convincing, they finally decided to let Dave Filoni work on a 7th season. So I'm sure most of you guys have seen the 7th season. Like, it was a big thing in 2020 last year, or 2019. So Dave Filoni just chose his favorite arcs that he really wanted to show, like the Siege of Mandalore and the Bad Batch arc, which obviously leads to the Bad Batch. So without this movie, there would be no Bad Batch, no Clone Wars, no Star Wars Rebels, and basically The Mandalorian wouldn't be the way it was right now. Like, there would be no Ahsoka in The Mandalorian. So this show, even though it might be a bit underappreciated because a lot of people thought it was a bit kiddie and the CGI animation was a bit bad, I do admit that CGI could have had a bit of work, but for 2008, this was a really good movie, really good animation. So this movie was released in 2008. Now, I really didn't realize how many Easter eggs there were in this video, in this movie. So I at first I wasn't going to do an Easter egg review, but then when I saw how many Easter eggs there were, I was like, I gotta do one. So this is all the Easter eggs I found in this movie. Now, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I guess, spoiler alert, I'm sure you've seen this already. It's 2008, but I guess, spoiler alert if you really haven't seen it, I guess. So let me get right into it. So the beginning of the movie starts with, obviously, the opening the opening voiceover with the narrator, who is Admiral Yularen, or Yoda, voiced by Tom Kane. So it's the same actor for Yoda and Admiral Yularen. So opening narration with Admiral Yularen. So the plot of this movie, it's basically divided into 3 parts, but the main plot is Rada the Huttlet, who is Jabba's son, has been kidnapped by Darth Sidious and Dooku, and now the Jedi have to try to rescue Rada if they want to sign a peace treaty with the Hutts so that they can use their airspace and travel through the Tatooine system for the war. So the movie opens up on Christopsis, and Anakin and Obi-Wan are participating in the Battle of Christopsis. So when they gain their ground and the Separatists are they're winning the battle right now, and they have these big guns, which I do not remember what model they are. You're probably seeing on the screen right now what model they are, but they are only featured in this movie, so that's what's keeping their ground. They have this big gun. Now, the Separatists are using, obviously, the B-1 battle droids, which are very dumb droids, so no wonder they nearly lost the war, and they're using the AATs, which are featured throughout the Clone Wars and a lot of other stuff. So, now that they've got they're winning the battle on the ground, but they still need reinforcements because, obviously, it's taking a toll on them. And in the air, Admiral Yularen, which is the one I said about the voiceover at the beginning, he can only send 1 ship down. And now Yoda has ordered, instead of reinforcements, he wants to deliver somebody. Now that somebody is Ahsoka Tano, a very important person. Now, a lot of people thought that she was cocky, arrogant, and immature at the beginning, but now people are like, if people didn't like her, she wouldn't have been featured in Rebels, she wouldn't have been featured in Clone Wars Season 7, she wouldn't have gotten her own series, and she wouldn't have been featured in The Mandalorian. So at first people thought like she was arrogant and cocky, but then fans begun to love her. So instead, Yoda tells Admiral Yularen to send down Ahsoka Tano in a new class attack shuttle. Now, those are the ones that you see in The Mandalorian and a lot of other episodes of Clone Wars. So they send Ahsoka down. Now, Obi-Wan mentions that Ahsoka was supposed to be her Padawan. He made a request for a new Padawan after Anakin became a Jedi Knight. But turns out Yoda, obviously sneaky Yoda, laughing, stealing food from Luke Skywalker, has decided that it's going to be Anakin's Padawan because he thinks it's a good thing for Anakin to have a Padawan so that he's not so arrogant and like in episode 2, how he takes the speeder and Obi-Wan's like, pull up. So he wants to try to get rid of that arrogance and cockiness. So now at first Anakin does not want a Padawan because he thinks that he's good how he is, but it's very important that he does get a Padawan because this has a big play into one of the reasons why he did turn to the dark side. Because in the fifth season of the Clone Wars, Ahsoka leaves the Jedi Order after being accused of bombing the Jedi Temple and murdering a bunch of Jedi, and that is a pivotal reason why Anakin decided to change sides and turn to the dark side and Revenge of the Sith, because he was very heartbroken that Ahsoka left and that let his anger, rage, basic stuff. So, once Ahsoka lands, you also get introduced to Rex, which is one of the very important characters in Star Wars: The Clone Wars. He's also featured in the Bad Batch. I'm sure you know who he is. So Rex is basically the clone captain of the squad of the squad that Anakin commands. So there's a bit of talking between Ahsoka and Rex says that experience outranks everything. So I believe they referenced that line in season 7 of the Clone Wars, but that's his line: experience outranks everything. So then the droids come back, and now they have a shield to block their AATs, and they're going to try to take out those guns that I mentioned earlier. So now Ahsoka has a plan that they're going to try to take thermal detonators and blow up the shield from the inside. So Anakin, his plan is to hide under a bit of rubble, let the shield go right over him. Then they're going to go and blow up the shield generator. So their plan works at the beginning. They get under the shield. The battle droids barely even notice them. But then when they get to the shield generator, Ahsoka accidentally triggers some droidekas. Now, those droidekas are also called destroyer droids. That's what they're first mentioned in The Phantom Menace. You see them. Obi-Wan says, Master, destroyers. And then those droids with the shield. So yeah, those are called droidekas or destroyers. They're very annoying. So with a bit of fancy work, Ahsoka takes them down. And then uses the Force to push down a stone that nearly kills Anakin, but barely doesn't. Obviously, if they killed Anakin, that would be very terrible for the canon of this series. So, and Ahsoka actually holds her lightsaber backwards, kind of like Starkiller if you played The Force Unleashed. So 2008 was basically the year of backwards lightsabers. So once they take down all those droidekas, they blow up the shield, and then those big guns take down the AATs, and now they pretty much won. But meanwhile, while that entire thing was happening, Obi-Wan was trying to negotiate with the person in charge of all these things. So that's a slight reference to The Phantom Menace with negotiations. Obviously, that was the whole beginning. That's what a lot of people didn't like The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. They thought it was too much politics. I did think The Phantom Menace was a bit boring, but that's a slight reference to The Phantom Menace. So now Jabba is growing impatient because they still haven't found Jabba's son, and Jabba is thinking of helping the Separatists. Now, the Separatists have an advantage here because obviously they've kidnapped Rada. So Dooku's plan is to kill Rada and then have some video recording of pretend that it was the Jedi who were the ones who killed Jabba's son. So the Jedi then go to the planet. I do not remember what it's called. You're probably seeing it on the screen right now. And they go to this planet with this big tower, and they're trying to go rescue Rada. So up here you see a couple of ATTs. Those are the ones that you see throughout the Clone Wars and you see in Attack of the Clones. They're climbing up the wall to get on top. And you see those STAPs, the single trooper aerial platform. Those are the things from The Phantom Menace where you first meet Jar Jar. It's like those floating things that the battle droids go on. So once they get to the top, they easily break through the door, and now they're basically winning the battle right now. So you then see an RH-7 droid, which those are basically the bug droids that you see on the Death Star and in The Mandalorian Season 2. So Anakin and Ahsoka then ask, well, technically it's mostly Anakin because he's the higher rank. Anakin then asks Captain Rex to stay there with the rest of the clones to keep a guard, and that was a good call to make them keep guard because they're going to need to stay there guard. So then Ahsoka and Anakin go through the thing looking for looking for Rada. Now once they find Rada, we then get introduced to Asajj. Sorry for saying that before, but they then get introduced to Asajj Ventress. So when Asajj opens when Asajj gets through the door, the clones try to fight against her, but she's basically, if you haven't watched the Clone Wars, let me give you a bit of her. Let me tell you basically what she is. So she was a Jedi until she turned to the dark side when her master was killed, and officially, she's an assassin with the Force because that would break the rule of two if she was an apprentice to Dooku. But ultimately, Palpatine does break the rule of two in the Rise of Skywalker because there was Kylo Ren, Snoke, and him. So ultimately, he does break it, but that's very different story. So now Palpatine doesn't really like Asajj Ventress because he really doesn't want to break the rule of two that was introduced in the Phantom Menace and was referenced a lot in Revenge of the Sith. And in the arc of the Clone Wars, he does want Dooku to betray her, and then Dooku betrays her. But like I'm just saying, these are a lot of stuff for the Clone Wars. So if you are enjoying this review right now and you've already seen the Clone Wars movie, well then definitely go watch the Clone Wars series or rewatch it if you haven't already watched it and you're watching The Bad Batch right now. I would suggest rewatching it. So let me get back to what I was saying. So then Asajj uses a Sith mind trick on Rex to try to locate Rada and Anakin, but Anakin's smarter than that and doesn't tell him the location. Doesn't tell him the location. And then Asajj doesn't kill Rex, luckily, because that would be very terrible. Then a lot of great stuff with Rex could not happen because Rex is one of the most beloved characters. He was featured in Rebels and maybe even The Mandalorian. He might be featured, and probably in the Ahsoka series that we're going to be getting soon. So then Anakin and Ahsoka try to escape through a launch pad, which R2 located. But then Asajj ends up getting there first. So they then close the door, but Asajj cuts through the door. So now they're running out of time to figure out what to do. So the Anakin then has an idea. There's these weird bat things that are under the thing. So he then decides to disturb the bat things, and then they jump on these weird bat things and they fly to a landing pad, which is out on a rocky cliff out on the outskirts. So they then fly there with Rada, and everybody's good. But then when they arrive there, you then see the RA-7 that I was talking about earlier. So they then Ahsoka cuts the RA-7's head off because the RA-7 is working with a separatist and it's a trap, but that's just a small thing. It's a trap. So then Obi-Wan starts dueling Asajj Ventress, and he's saying that Asajj has failed Dooku, and she has not succeeded in her mission of killing Rada. So then engage in a duel until Asajj then escapes on a vulture droid, and that's the end of the duel. So now I'm guessing that she was going to try to stop Anakin, but there's no need for that because she then contacts Dooku, and Dooku is very upset that she has failed her, and then that there will be consequence. Now, we never got to see what the consequences was of her failing, but she is featured a lot through the Clone Wars until, like I said, until she gets betrayed. So the ship that they have to take to Tatooine is the Twilight. Now, the Twilight is featured in a lot of episodes of the Clone Wars series until it meets its demise in the episode, I think it was Shades of Reason, or The Law. That was one of the episodes on Mandalore. And then it gets blown up by Death Watch, so it's seen throughout the Clone Wars, and it honestly is a rust bucket, like worse than the Millennium Falcon. You're probably seeing the photo on the screen right now. It is a rust bucket. So they then have to fly that thing to Tatooine because when they're about to enter the Venador with Admiral Yularen in it, a couple hyena bombers shoot the thing up, and then so now they have to fly that thing to Tatooine. Now I'm actually very surprised that thing has a hyperdrive because it is a rust bucket, like I said. So once they survive getting to Tatooine without blowing up in hyperspace, they then get into a dogfight with two Rogue-class starfighters. Now, the Rogue-class starfighter is that thing that the Magna Guards used to fly around, and the Magna Guards are Grievous's bodyguards and Dooku's bodyguard. So they then get into a fight with them, and then that thing actually has guns, and so then they start shooting out all the Rogue-class starfighters. And once they take them all, oh wait, I just forgot to mention, also the Rogue-class starfighters are also the ship that Cad Bane had that Emperor Palpatine gave him. But let me get back to what I was saying. So once they shoot down all the Rogue-class starfighters, but now they're badly damaged, so they're going down for a crash landing. Once they crash on Tatooine, then cuts to Padme. So Emperor Palpatine has been given word to Padme that Anakin is in danger, and that Jabba thinks that it was it was the Jedi who kidnapped Rada, and that Rada is dead, and they think that Anakin was the one who did it. So now Padme tries to go to Jabba's uncle, Zero the Hutt, which lives on the lower levels of Coruscant. So once Padme gets there, like I said, it's Zero is the uncle to Jabba, even though Zero is a smaller Hutt than Jabba. He's kind of more of he's a small Hutt, and that's when you can really see that Hutts, I'm guessing they live for a long time, probably around like 1,000 years. They probably live to about 1,000 years, kind of like Yoda. So he visits Jabba's uncle. And what Zero's bodyguards are these assassin droids, which are the same type of droids as IG-11 from The Mandalorian and IG-88 from The Empire Strikes Back. So there's just that. And Zero does not want to reason with Padme. So Zero then throws Padme into jail. And then when Padme sneaks back to Zero, he then figures out that Zero is working with Dooku to try, and he was the one who tried to kidnap Rada, but he really didn't want to kidnap Rada because he does mention that he loves Rada. It's that Dooku threatened to kill him if he didn't tell him how to kidnap Rada, and basically Dooku forced him to do that. So she then is able to get on her comlink, and she's able to contact 3PO, which then tries to contact Commander Fox, which I believe Commander Fox is only featured in this one episode. He's the leader of the Coruscant Elite Guards, which are those the shock troopers, which are featured also in Battlefront. As a side note, they're very annoying in Battlefront. So let me just cut back to Tatooine. So on Tatooine, when they're walking, you can see a Krayt Dragon skeleton, which is featured in A New Hope, obviously, and then you get to see the real might of the Krayt Dragon in The Mandalorian in Season 2, Episode 1. That was a very good episode. I think it was one of my favorite episodes. And just a side note, this has nothing to do with this, but there is rumors of a Mandalorian game, which I really hope that you will be able to fight the Krayt Dragon in that game. So then Ahsoka does a very terrible thing to Anakin, and when Ahsoka's asking Anakin about his mother, and he obviously doesn't want to talk about it. And then Ahsoka says we can talk about sand. Now that was just very cruel for poor Anakin, because we know he hates sand. He delivers the line, "I don't like sand. It's rough, coarse, and mutating." So Ahsoka, I think he'd rather talk about his mother than sand, because he really hates sand a lot. So
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
That's a very funny thing that they clearly put in there on purpose, and it's a very funny callback to Attack of the Clones. So then they then have to split up because now Dooku knows that they're here. So Anakin has a plan where Anakin is going to take the pouch of Rada and is going to try to pretend that he has Rada on his back, while Ahsoka actually takes the real Huttlet and is going to try to run it to Jabba's castle. So then Anakin engages in a duel with Dooku, and obviously clear lightsaber duel. And Dooku, as normal Sith, you try to say the basic things: let your anger, let your hate flow through you, come to the dark side, basic things. And then he starts talking about how he's gonna fail and that Rada is gonna get killed. But then Dooku slashes the backpack, and he thinks that he's killed Rada, but then Anakin's just like, nope. So then after a bit more dueling, Anakin doesn't kill Dooku, he just blows some sand in his face, so you can see that Anakin doesn't want to kill Dooku, but I'm sure if Dooku had the chance, he would have killed Anakin, but that would have interrupted with all of Palpatine's plans, so imagine if he just killed Anakin right there. So he then takes Dooku's speeder, which I believe is the same one from Attack of the Clones that he uses in the first fight with Anakin, so I believe that's the same speeder, or the same type of speeder, and he's trying to rush to the castle because Ahsoka has fallen into a trap and is about to get killed, and Rada's probably going to get killed by Magna Guards, which are those things that I was talking about earlier that fly the Rogue class starfighters. So Ahsoka's about to be in a big surprise about the Magna Guards. So Anakin's too late, and when so then Ahsoka has to fight with the Magna Guards. Now, he's worried that he's gonna hurt poor Stinky. She's worried that she's gonna hurt poor Stinky, which is Stinky's the nickname that she gave to Rada. So they continue fighting, and then eventually she's able to take all of them out, but not before. She's not able to get into the castle yet. So then Anakin, going super quick, he gets into the castle. And then he puts his lightsaber at the neck of Jabba because he thinks that Jabba killed Ahsoka. So that's very bad. But then Ahsoka rushes in with Rada, and now Rada's okay. So then you get the reunion between Jabba and Rada. Now, just as a side note, you never see Rada again. Spoiler, I believe that you never see Rada again. So you don't actually know what happened to Rada. There's always a chance that in the Bad Batch we could see Rada, an adult Rada, which would be pretty cool. But I mean, I guess there's a lot of room for it because, I mean, Rada was mostly just a side character for this one movie, but, I mean, pretty nice character. Or maybe in the Ahsoka series, I just thought of that, maybe in the Ahsoka series we could see Rada. So then Jabba tells his people to put their guns at Anakin and Ahsoka because he still thinks that they were the ones to kidnap him. So even that they returned Rada, Jabba still wants to kill them. So then, right when they're about to defend themselves, and actually, I thought that Jabba actually could have opened the cage and dropped Anakin and Ahsoka into the pit, but I'm guessing that there wasn't a Rancor back then, because this is before, obviously, the Bad Batch, when Jabba got his first Rancor, which is Muchi, and then we see Patissa in Return of the Jedi, which Jabba's had 2 Rancors in his time. Maybe there was a Rancor under there, we just never got to see it. I'm guessing that the developers didn't want to go that far, because then, at the same time, Padme contacts Jabba, and then Zero admits to having helped Dooku kidnap Rada, and that the Jedi are innocent, and it was all a scheme of Palpatine and Dooku to try to not allow the Jedi to get their deal with Jabba and to allow them to fly through a Tatooine airspace. So now Jabba believes them, and now he decides to sign the agreement, which allows them to fly through the airspace on Tatooine. So pretty good. That's a pretty good end to the movie, you know. And then obviously we get the Clone Wars animated series, which follows it. The same year that this was released in 2008, we get the Clone Wars animated series, and that ran for 7 seasons, as most of you probably know if you're watching this video. So it was a pretty successful series. And obviously that gave birth to the Bad Batch. So I know you guys are probably thinking that this movie had bad animation, but let's just say, if this movie hadn't happened, then we wouldn't have gotten the Bad Batch or the Clone Wars, and we wouldn't have gotten The Mandalorian Season 2 the way that it is. Like, we wouldn't have gotten Ahsoka in it, we wouldn't have gotten Bo-Katan. So this movie is a very important movie, and I think it's very underappreciated. So if you haven't watched this thing already, then I suggest go watching it right now, because it is a pretty good movie, and obviously I decided to rewatch it, and I didn't realize how many Easter eggs there were. So that's all the Easter eggs that I found in this thing. I believe there were a couple that I probably forgot, because I did watch this like 3 weeks ago. It's only an hour and 30 minutes long, so if you just want, if you don't want to waste 2 hours watching a movie, then this is a pretty short movie that you can just watch, and it's a pretty good movie. And then obviously there's the animated series, so if you like this movie, then you can also watch that series. So that's all the Easter eggs, and bye.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me. So be it, Jedi. Huh?